Ray. Okay. And welcome to National Caribbean American Heritage Month. And welcome to our session on the creative economy. In this session, we want to discuss the challenges and the obstacles for the creative economy in the 21st century. Now, I want to define the fact that we are having what we call a smart Caribbean gathering. And with the smart Caribbean gathering, I want to give you the definition of the acronym for SMART. For SMART, we're saying we are focused on sustainable systems. We're focused on meaningful metrics and agility and adaptability is the third letter in the acronym. R is for robust resilience, and T is for transformative technology. So all the areas that we're covering in a broad sense are focused under these set principles, or I would say goals. With our discussion today, I have as featured speakers Carrie Ann Henry, who is the vice principal at Edna Manley College of. I have Rudy Page, who is the CEO of Making Connections. Rudy is from the UK, and Miss Carrie Ann Henry is in Kingston, Jamaica. So we did have an additional speaker who is having challenges in East Africa. Maro Protest is the instructor for film production, TV and film production at Bagamoyo College of the Arts. I'm going to speak to his piece, but I'm gonna start with some specific questions around the creative economy and the challenges that arts educational institutions have had during the pandemic. And so I'm going to direct my first question on that topic to Ms. Carrie Ann Henry, and just to direct a question: how have you been impacted by this pandemic at Edna Manley?
All right. Afternoon, Mark. Well, afternoon here from Jamaica. I know it's different times all over the world. So, just hello to everyone. Thank you for the invitation and for hosting this wonderful discussion. So I will start off with just saying a little bit about the college and what we do, just to give it a little bit more context. So the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts is the main, I would say, it's the first institution of its kind in the English-speaking Caribbean, in that we offer all the art forms.
We did have an additional.
We offer all the art forms on the one campus. So we offer degree programs in visual arts, all realms of visual arts. We'll go into that a little bit more when we talk about, how we've had to shift. So visual arts, we have music, drama, dance, we have arts management and humanities. So we really are a mix of all the areas. College has been in existence since 1976, then as the Cultural Training Center, and now renamed the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts in 1995. So primarily an education institution, but we are the premier training institution for the visual and performing artists that we have put out in the Caribbean and globally. And so our graduates go into areas of education, they go into performance, they go into actual independent businesses and works. And so we span a lot of areas of the creative and cultural industries. So just giving that context, we would say that we kind of touch a number of the sectors, and to say that we have been greatly affected by the pandemic. Um, from an institutional perspective, the students were quite resilient in terms of really trying to ensure that they continue their education. But in enrollment, we had about a 17% decline. And so, a number of the reasons that we would have gotten for that, in terms of just the struggles for availability of funding, being able to travel, because we do have overseas students as well. And of course, the travel restrictions that came into effect when the pandemic started. But what a lot of persons have asked us, it's because we do a lot of practical and studio courses and delivery of content alongside the theory, yes, but because it's largely practical and very hands-on, persons have said, how have you been able to continue delivering teaching and learning experiences? Right. So when the pandemic, and I do want to say this, I would love to, not because I'm in the arts, because I've actually studied and worked in a lot of other disciplines as well, but I do want to celebrate the arts. I want to celebrate the arts because in essence, how you see artists and the arts responding to this pandemic, one of the great things about the arts is, as you said, Mark, it's that adaptability, that robustness, that resilience, So the arts had to represent for this transformation. And so when the pandemic first hit and the college literally went down for like the first week or 2 weeks, along with the rest of the country, the faculty, everyone got involved and, really looked back at our delivery and said, okay, how can we continue and enable our students to finish successfully for the semester? And we had to engage in your T. So a lot of transformative technologies. We had to engage in, we're all now talking online on Zoom. So we had to do a lot of virtual engagement. So how do you teach dance virtually? How do you teach music virtually? How do you go into visual arts virtually? And
Are you doing that? Are you
we
doing that?
are, we are. And what is great is that, so I tell you, after that first 2 weeks, we were back on. We were delivering our courses. We were finishing our students successfully. We were shifting as we go along, ensuring that we were still having our outcomes, learning outcomes successfully achieved, working with the students. It was a great transition because now you have persons who are it's a lot of kinesthetic engagement going online. Students who like that interaction, who the arts you need to feed from the environment and each other in that creative process, now transferring this to a virtual environment, so we
Yeah,
really have to shift.
so I could certainly see, that in the beginning, but you're still doing virtual
Okay, so
classes and,
right,
and music, you're still doing it online?
what we had to do, so this would have been, so let me put it into context. So this would have been from March 2020 up until within our first semester, which would start from August 2020 down to December 2020. So we started back face-to-face classes January of 2021. And what we did was we met in small cohorts. So we divided the students into groupings and we kept those groupings together. So they were consistent. So meeting in smaller groups, ensuring that we're doing the physical distancing, ensuring that we're keeping all the safety protocols, the wearing of masks, the sanitization, temperature checks. So those were a lot of protocols that we had to develop, enforce, and also look at what works best for the practice. And then we got a spike in numbers, as with the rest of the world. And so we had to again transfer quite a few of those activities back to online. So we're rounding out the semester with a combined
Okay.
delivery. So like a hybrid, yeah,
All right.
offer.
So let me offer and contrast what I observed at Bagamoyo, since I'm going to talk about Bagamoyo's program. And they have, I want to say, 500 students. And I was able to witness, their dance classes, drumming classes. I attended some of the music classes. I attended classes in script writing, so on and so. But there was nothing. And this was in, I'm going to say, the month of April. I was there April 16th. I don't know. I never even really inquired as to if they ever even went online. But everything was, face to face. All of the instruction was face to face in all of these classes. So it was certainly an eye-opening experience. And also, I wanted to mention about Bagamoyo is the fact that they have a significant presence in Manley. They're the only arts institution in East Africa. So they have an international distinction and an international recognition in that they have a festival every year in October. It's an international festival that is a significant contributor to their economy. It is a town or a city in East Africa. It is right on the Indian Ocean, and it is certainly it has a tremendous historical background, because it was a town that was enslaved by Arabs. The Arabs had enslaved the Africans, and so it has a rich and it has a significant history as a slave town. I just want to mention that. But we don't have Merle, and I know he's had these challenges. He could have talked to us about some of the challenges that they faced during the pandemic. When I was there, no one had. There was nobody wearing masks. Okay, there were this, and I'm talking in April. So I wanted to shift to another question relative to arts education. But now I want to talk more about the preparation for the students and how they are being prepared, once they graduate, to enter into the workforce, and particularly how are you preparing to enter into the workforce where they could be contributors in the creative economy, because we have so many creative institutions. So I guess my question here is focused on how does Edna Manley assist and prepare and direct and their graduates to enter into the workforce and to be contributors in the creative economy.
Mm. Okay, thanks, Mark. So I would say that the college approaches that development in a holistic kind of framework. So yes, there is the educational aspect in terms of knowledge and skills, but there's also the development of the person. So, social skills and soft skills, as well as there's the business development aspect. So the college has, and what I want to do is also talk about some initiatives that the college has embarked on, some quite recent. And so our programs are they're a mix of theory and practical. So it's not a conservatory approach. We do have the theory and the practical. And we also ensure that we have a mix of general studies courses so that the students get out a rounded education. But we're largely very practical. So, we hone in on those practical skills that will strengthen them as creative developers and innovators. We also have our student services department, and they have launched a mentorship program, and they are also doing a student engagement and experience program where they are looking at skills such as interview skills, such as professional development skills, such as financial literacy skills. So, it's looking at the entire being, going into, participate in, be sustainable in, and contributing to a sector. Now, when we talk about, we had launched last year a small business development center. The Small Business Development Center is a part of a national network of small business development centers. And this is being spearheaded by the Jamaica Business Development Corporation. And the center at the Edna Manley College on the Visual and Performing Arts is focused on the creative and cultural industries. And what we have a designated business development council that offers consultations to our students and faculty and any member of the public that wants to come in and flesh out a business idea or look at how to grow a business in the sector. So we also have been exploring a lot more private-public partnerships because we are also trying to connect our students with real-world experiences even before they exit. We recently, in May, signed an agreement with a global marketing agency, SMC, the SMC Group, where SMC Europe Caribbean will be offering apprenticeship opportunities and guaranteed job placements on exit after that successful apprenticeship program. Yeah, for students. So they're looking at owning talent and developing from that space. Another part of that partnership, as well as other ventures for the college, is looking at the type of equipment and technology we have available for our students to utilize. What we are seeking to do and looking for partnership and funding support is to really equip the space with the cutting edge technology that exists in the sector so that the students on exit, they're ready. It's not then getting out there and having this learning curve. So those are some of the things that the college has been working on. But I will say this though, because of how the college is positioned and what we do, as well as the history of and legacy of the college, you find that a lot of private sector organizations, as well as government agencies, engage the college to have students participate in a lot of corporate social activities. Our School of Continuing Education and Allied Programs, so that school looks at short courses, leisure courses that can serve, students and general public, but they have what we call a corporate arts support program. And so we look at that kind of engagement, with students and corporates and that kind of extra exchange. So yeah, I don't know. You can ask me further, but that's just some of what we're doing.
Okay, I wanted to bring Rudy in because now Rudy has he's contributing to the creative economy in another way. Okay, he has a radio station. Rudy, let me just allow you to come in with uh, your representation within the creative economy, because you're actually engaged in a number of activities beyond the creative. So I'll just let you go and speak on your topic.
Thank you very much for that, Mark, and good to see you, Carrie Ann, as well. I'm pleased to be part of this forum from a UK perspective. Yes, if we just think about the pandemic era that we're in for the last 18 months, basically that's really taught us that even with intention, commitment, and new strategies, the way ahead to make our way in this world has raised what we call some unseen barriers to overcome, whilst at the same time providing new pathways for ideas that can be translated into economic value. So we have three distinct priorities in terms of the way we operate. So our first one being, it's about our mental health and spiritual well-being. It's about digital innovation and the creative economy. And it's about women and youth development. So we have a broad conceptual framework, and that is to create a lifelong 21st century skills legacy. And when we talk about 21st century skills, we're talking about collaboration, creativity, communication, critical thinking. And we've also added hospitality skills as part of that as well. And Carrie Ann touched on the soft skills. And also for us then, it's about inspiring inclusive, peaceful, caring, and enterprising clusters within neighborhoods for youth development, community economic well-being, digital innovation, and the creative economy. And we now talk about sustainable engineering, and that's to do with the environment and making best use of everything that's in the environment. Things can be repaired, they can be improved. And of course, civic participation, which is important. And we're now in an era now where inclusion is important. So we kind of say that, that the values of inclusion and respect are really important, because you want to make best use of all the talents that's in your society at every level.
Okay, but Rudy, are you tapping? But are you tapped for your resources? You know, how are you tapping into your resources? How are you aligning the resources that you need to facilitate the cultural creative activities that you're doing? Are you aligned with the arts colleges? Are you aligned with arts institutions or the music industry? How are you doing that?
And how we did that, and that's a very good question, because one of the key things about digital innovation and creativity, and we're now talking about intellectual capital, knowledge transfer, and intelligence, and that's about allowing people to be creative and flourish, as I said, by inclusion, pathways for their talents expression. But also when we talk about innovation now, we're talking about working within the existing systems, but being creative with that. And the existing systems where we talk about think, learn, and share, and we're working towards those systems applying themselves to work with the people. So in other words, the term we use, the means of communication may be different, but the needs are the same. So in other words, the human needs have not changed in terms of their services, as we've seen, but the way we go about it, the way systems work, that's where the change has been because of this pandemic era. And yes, so we've aligned our way of thinking and acting, and even with our Reggae Global and with Fresh FM Radio London, we've aligned with health, and I mentioned mental health and well-being. So through the medium of the digital station and through Zooms and all of these online dialogues, we then have brought the institutions onto these platforms, and the output of the station and through the Zoom meetings, the dialogues as we call them, you see the adjustment in policy and thinking, and even some of the things Carrie Ann was saying. So we, in one of our other businesses, Derek Clement, he's been delivering online learning to young people around professional hairdressing and continuing professional development, and also to the consumer, because they have not been able to go to the hairdresser. So more consumers have had to learn how to use their, do their own things and do their own hair. So the creativity now means that the providers of services have had to adapt to this online world. And even when we're eventually let out, this is still going to be an integral part of the way we do business. And it's important that we think that way, because that's where the economic value is coming from. Our ability to use the technology. We've got artificial intelligence, we've got intellectual property, all the residuals from there, and that business and economic side now is really important. And of course, we touched on clusters and supply chains and the global market that we're in as well now. So there we have some of the opportunities.
Well, yeah, I certainly am aware of the various venues that you have, the creative venues, the hairdressing venues, for example. I think I've attended one. You came to Connecticut one time.
That's right.
Did I come or did I miss it? I don't remember, but I know that you do those, and they're quite competitive.
Yeah.
In terms of those people that are creating hair designs. How now, going with the pandemic, has those venues been impacted, and has there been any significant changes in how you present them and how often you present them?
And that's a great question, right? What's happened? There's been much more online delivery of events, and we've done a tremendous amount, much more what we call expert information, maintenance advice, professional tips. But also what's happened in terms of the consumer, going back to the point I touched on earlier on, it's actually spurned more small manufacturers. Interesting enough, and more women taking charge of their hair, and more women making products, and the transition back to natural hair, which has boosted another part of the market for natural products, and many people going back to some of the remedies and natural remedies that were used 150 years ago. So that's actually created a whole new market that just wasn't there before, when people were just going to retailers, and then of course there's a natural movement anyway as it relates to hair, the hair care and beauty industry, which really is the cornerstone of our communities, because it does reach and link to other areas, fashion, music, all these things are all in integral parts. So of course there's a much bigger market for presentations on video and around the world as well. And I think we've still got a lot of great potential there, and our systems haven't yet quite adjusted to, using video as a communication tool, other than just music, but for learning, sharing, and for producing economic value. But that's, more about the intellectual property rights. So it's got to be a lot more learning on that business side, understand what AI is, and all those kind of areas that we're now focused on. And even our Reggae Global and Culture series, we've had experts like Mike Johns, a Jamaican based in LA, who's high up in the hip hop world, uses blockchain. We got Hugh Francis, another intellectual property specialist. His background is reggae, and they're now thinking about the importance of reggae again as a cornerstone industry, and of course it's one of the key means for driving tourism as well, which is obviously an important part of this what we call community economic tourism. So I think that economic, and Carrie Ann touched on it, economic is now central to the way we're going to have to think about and meet the needs of all our population groups, because we need their creative ideas. And that's why inclusion and nobody feeling that they're left out is an integral part of local economic development.
Well, I did have another question for Carrie Ann, and particularly as it relates to economic development and the presence of Edna Manley. It's being the only arts institution, in the Caribbean. What efforts, does the college do to drive economic development, within the community, or, just to promote Jamaica's brand, what is Edna actually doing? Not, and I'm talking about from not just from a local national perspective, but from an international perspective for economic.
Right. Okay. So there are a couple of things that I'll respond to that too, Mark. But there are a couple of things in what Rudy was saying, and I'm also wondering if this discussion is going to get there. So I don't want to preempt the discussion, right? Because I think the whole sense of the economy and what that means, and the various ecosystems that have been disrupted by the pandemic, has to be something that we touch on, because the college being primarily, the college's mandate within the mission is training, right? So training, that's where we are. But implicit in that is also the sense of where do our graduates go and what do they do, and how do we also serve the ecosystem of the creative and cultural industries. And so what I would say to this is that Rudy mentioned a number of areas, and wherever it is that there's arts in Jamaica and the Caribbean, I am 100% confident that you will find an Edna Manley College of Visual and Performing Arts graduates involved. And that is Jamaica across the Caribbean. And then though that spans even globally. A lot of the music productions and artists that we would see touring, in their band, you have several graduates. So in terms of what the college is actually doing to promote and drive, I would say that trying to focus on what the mandate and mission originally for the colleges, and that was to produce excellent artists. And from there, even being part of conversations that provide knowledge and inform policies and practices that can help to drive and sustain the industry. Yeah, and I do want to say this because right now, the industry is so wide. There are many areas. So you have a lot of visual artists, for example, who they themselves can be the business in terms of what they're producing. Likewise for a musician, yes, and for a dancer and a dramatist. But a lot of the graduates who are coming out in the performing aspect, they are largely supported by and also support live events and that entertainment industry. Now, even though there are virtual offerings, there's a lot that you do not get to access virtually, and that has now it's absent from not having a live event. And I would use Jamaica as an example, because when we think of a live event, it's not just about the performance. There are many things that come to that. For Jamaica, the event is an experience. When you come, there are vendors who are selling various types of food, you know, and I don't even want to highlight some more than others, but there's always a pan chicken man who is there, you know, before and after the event. There are other types of vendors in and outside the venue, right? When you get there, it's also the hairdressers. Rudy mentioned that the hairdressers that you go to when you're you know, going to get yourself ready, the barbers, because it's not just the females, the men are there too, the barbers, you know, the outfits that you go to get. So every single part of all industries, it's interconnected.
Right.
And what we have to also recognize is that the entertainment industry, it's when you cut off those events, there are other parts of the ecosystem that are affected. And I do believe so the college lends its voice to the considerations. And I think, you know, I support and celebrate our leaders who have been really trying to see all our countries through this pandemic in the most sustainable, creative way that they can, because they really have to sit down and work with the players, the educators, everyone in the industry to craft a method of really reopening and reimagining the industry, because virtually alone will not work. It will not be sustainable. Now, you know, we had a group of gentlemen who at Dream Entertainment, a group here, and they had put together a document that they put forward as a possible map that could be used, because there are restaurants there that you can go out and eat. How are they managing that? What lessons can be learned to transfer to other areas? So as you say, the college will sit at the table and be a part of this conversation and this voice, because also one of the great advantages of getting an educational institution and training institution into that conversation as well is the fact that we look at it from a very holistic perspective. So we look at all the inputs, we look at what happens also in the mix and the output. So, you know, it adds some more richness to the conversation. I really believe that even when we mentioned the tours and all of that, a lot of the artists, it's from touring that they earn. You know, it's not from music sales necessarily. It's not from these virtual events that a lot of persons have had to offer for free. And so really that becomes again the importance of the public-private partnerships, where you get a sponsor to sponsor that event, and that's how they can get some sustenance from that. Sure.
All right, so we got 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left. I want to get this question in. Okay, so I just wanted to say, well, if Bagamoyo was on the call, they have a major festival. It's an international festival, and you know, it's quite significant. In fact, I plan on attending in October this year. What you know, I know that Edna Manley does major events. What is the major event that you put together, or do you have a number of them?
We have a number of them. Like literally, you could come to the college all throughout the year and be totally immersed and entertained. But I would say that this year we do have our flagship arts conference. We have a biennial arts conference, and
it's for the community.
It's an international arts conference. It's the Rex Nettleford Arts Conference. It's October 6th to 8th this year. We are going to be offering it virtually. Yeah, so it's the theme. It's the arts, decolonizing the spirit. So, you know, yeah, so it's gonna be rich. It's gonna have performances, panel discussions, you know, paper presentations, where we are looking at from creative technologies to the voices to looking at inclusion, everything that Rudy would have mentioned, you know, as well, and just talking about steps, where are we going? How are we going to,
Yes.
unfold in this space that we now are, and an interconnected global space, because we are not, isolated. We're all, everything that we do in this country is affecting other countries, and likewise, we are also interconnected.
Okay.
It's actually, can I just say very quickly, Mark, it's
We
really,
got to wrap up.
yeah, exactly. Just before we do that, but just to follow on, Carrie Ann made a really great point, particularly where you've kind of said where the importance of the learning and training institution at the center of the development of this new ecosystem, because least with your approach, you'll give that clarity and definition for those of us who implement and translate plans and programs into impacting the community. So it's actually good to hear that. And of course, you're drawing in talents from all backgrounds, regardless, which is another important part in terms of the new economy. So I think it's really essential that our learning institutions are at the forefront, pulling from those neighborhoods.
So I'll close out this last 1 minute that we have here and say thank you so much for agreeing to do this session with me. I appreciate your inputs very much, and so we're extremely happy to have the UK involved in National Caribbean American Heritage Month, as well as Jamaica, and South Africa in, but we will next time. So.
Yes.
Thank you for sending us the link, and thank you, Carrie Ann, for all of your inputs. And
thank you.
Appreciate it.
And Mark, I just want to say thank you as well. And it was a pleasure meeting everyone on the panel, and just keep up the good work, and just all the best for the weekend.
All right. Look forward to seeing you when I come to Jamaica this summer.
Definitely.
So, someday I will be able to attend the Reds Nettleford Festival. That sounds.
Arts conference, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.